Welcome to Dust Fork, where secrets burn hotter than the forge, and trust costs more than gold. Settle in for a story of danger, lies, and the only truth that matters. The gun barrel touched Inez McCrae's spine before she heard the voice. Cold steel through blue cotton, right between her shoulder blades, and then the low growl that made her stomach drop. You got about 5 seconds to tell me why a woman with your face is running a hotel in my town. She froze on the boardwalk outside the Dust Fork Hotel, both hands full of linens, heart slamming against her ribs. Behind her, boots scraped wood. The pressure increased. I asked you a question, ma'am. Real polite. Real deadly. She turned slow, arms still full of sheets, and looked into a face she had prayed she would never see again. Jasper Rourke. 6 feet of lean muscle and old anger, sandy hair falling across a face that had aged hard in 4 years. The gun was a Colt Peacemaker, steady as stone, aimed at her chest now that she faced him. His eyes were the color of winter sky, and they cut through every lie she had built. You are supposed to be dead, he said quietly. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. The linen slipped from her arms and landed in the dust. I could say the same about you, she whispered. He did not move. Neither did she. Around them, Dust Fork went about its business. A wagon rattled past. Someone laughed in the saloon 3 doors down. The wind lifted dust devils in the street. Jasper Rourke kept the gun level and his voice lower. Whatever name you are using now, it is not the one I knew. She swallowed hard. Inez McCrae. Hotel keeper. Arrived 2 months ago from Santa Fe. His mouth twisted. Convenient. And before Santa Fe? She met his eyes and did not flinch. Before Santa Fe does not matter. It is before Dust Fork. Before this life. It is gone. For a long moment, he studied her. Then, with a movement so fast she barely tracked it, he holstered the gun and stepped back. The relief that flooded her legs nearly buckled her knees. You want gone to stay gone, he said. You do not set up shop in a town where water rights are about to start a war and half the men are 1 bad week from turning outlaw. This is not a place to hide, Inez McCrae. This is a place people run from. She bent and gathered the dusty linens, buying time to steady her voice. Maybe I am tired of running. He laughed once, short and bitter. Then you picked the wrong town in the worst possible month. There is a land company trying to strangle us dry. The Silver Ranch is about to lose its water access. And if you have not noticed, every stranger who rides in gets blamed for something. You show up with a new name and no past. People are going to talk. They already are. She straightened, holding the ruined linens against her chest like a shield. Let them talk. I paid for the hotel. I keep it clean. I do not owe anyone my history. His eyes narrowed. You owe me the truth. She took a step closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. You are the last person I owe anything, Jasper. You made that clear when you disappeared without a word and left me to face what came after alone. Whatever you think you know about me, you are 4 years too late to care. The silence stretched thin and dangerous. Then, Jasper turned on his heel and walked back across the street toward the blacksmith shop. She watched him go, heart still racing, and hated that her hands shook as she climbed the hotel steps. 2 months she had been in Dust Fork. 2 months of keeping her head down, serving meals, changing sheets, smiling at travelers and avoiding questions. She had thought she was safe. She had thought the past was buried deep enough. And then, Jasper Rourke had pressed a gun to her back and proved her wrong. That night, she learned what he meant about the water. The town meeting packed the saloon until men stood shoulder to shoulder and tempers ran hotter than the lamps. Inez stayed in the back, arms folded, listening. The land company, a snake outfit called Western Expansion Holdings, had bought up parcels along Bitter Creek. Now they wanted to divert the water, sell it back to the ranches at rates that would bleed them dry inside a year. The Silver Ranch, the biggest spread in the territory, would be the first to fall. After that, the smaller homesteads would topple like dominoes. Dust Fork would dry up and blow away. A gray-haired man in a dusty suit stood on a chair and shouted over the crowd. "We are not rolling over for these vultures. We fight this legal, and if legal does not work, we fight it another way." Cheers and shouts. Inez caught sight of Jasper near the bar, arms crossed, jaw tight. He was not cheering. A younger man, built like a bull and red-faced with drink, jabbed a finger toward Jasper. "Easy for you to say fight, Rourke. You do not have land to lose. You just shoe horses and mind your forge. What do you care if the ranches go under?" Jasper pushed off the bar and faced him, voice level and cold. "I care because when the ranches go under, the town dies. When the town dies, we all lose. And I care because I know what it looks like when rich men squeeze honest people until they break. I have seen it before. I will not watch it happen here without a fight." The room shifted. Men nodded. The drunk subsided. Inez studied Jasper in the lamplight, seeing echoes of the man she had known, the one who had stood up to men twice his size and never backed down. Then his gaze swept the room and caught hers. For a heartbeat, the noise faded. His expression did not change, but something passed between them, a recognition that went deeper than names or guns or accusations. Then someone else started shouting about water rights, and the moment broke. She slipped out before the meeting ended and walked back to the hotel through air that smelled like dust and coming rain. Her mind spun. Jasper was here. Jasper was alive. Jasper knew who she really was, and that knowledge was a loaded gun pointed at everything she had built. She climbed the stairs to her small room above the lobby and sat on the edge of the narrow bed, still wearing her shawl. The past was not gone. It was standing across the street with a forge and a memory and eyes that saw through every lie. She pressed her palms against her knees and made herself breathe. She had survived worse than this. She had survived losing everything. She could survive Jasper Rourke. The next morning, trouble arrived on horseback. 3 men in long coats and hard faces, riding into town like they owned it. Inez was sweeping the boardwalk when they passed, and the way they looked at the hotel, at the storefronts, at the people, made her skin crawl. She recognized the look. Predators sizing up prey. She finished sweeping and went inside, but she kept watching through the window. The men dismounted outside the land office. One of them, tall with a black hat and a scar along his jaw, glanced back toward the hotel. His gaze lingered. Then he smiled, and it was the kind of smile that promised nothing good. She stepped back from the window, pulse jumping. That afternoon, she was hanging laundry in the yard behind the hotel when Jasper appeared around the corner, moving quiet for a man his size. She startled, nearly dropped a sheet. He raised both hands, palms out. "Easy. I am not here to fight." She clipped the sheet to the line and faced him, wary. "Then why are you here?" He glanced toward the street, then back at her. "Those men who rode in this morning. You see them?" She nodded slowly. "Hard not to." He stepped closer, voice low. "They are working for Western Expansion. Hired muscle. The kind that makes problems disappear when legal pressure is not enough. One of them, the one with the scar, he has a reputation. He has been asking questions about newcomers to town. About you, specifically." Her stomach dropped. "Why me?" Jasper's jaw tightened. "Because you are alone. Because you run a business. Because they think you are vulnerable. And they want to know if you will sell, or if you will need convincing." She felt the old fear rise, cold and familiar. "I am not selling. The hotel is all I have." "Then you need to be careful," he said quietly. "These men do not take no for an answer. They do not play fair. And if they find out you are not who you say you are, they will use it against you." She met his eyes, searching for the trap. "Why do you care? What do I owe you that makes you come warn me?" He looked at her for a long moment, and something in his expression shifted. "You do not owe me anything. But I owe you the truth. I left because I thought staying would get you killed. I was wrong. Leaving almost did. I have spent 4 years regretting it. I am not walking away again. Not from you. Not from this fight." The words landed between them like stones in still water. Inez opened her mouth, closed it. The laundry snapped in the rising wind. Finally, she found her voice. "You do not get to do this. You do not get to show up after 4 years and pretend you can protect me now." Jasper took another step closer. "I am not pretending. I am telling you what is coming. You can hate me all you want, but you cannot fight this alone." She wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him to leave. But the memory of the scarred man's smile stopped her. Instead, she said, "What do you want me to do?" He exhaled, and some of the tension left his shoulders. "Trust me, just long enough to get through this. After that, you never have to see me again, if that is what you want." She studied him, looking for the lie, the angle, the betrayal waiting to unfold. She found only exhaustion, and something that looked painfully like hope. "Fine," she said quietly. "But if you disappear on me again, Jasper, I swear I will hunt you down myself." The corner of his mouth lifted, almost to smile. "Fair enough." The storm hit that night, hard and fast. Rain drummed the roof and turned the street to mud. Inez lay awake, listening to the thunder, and thinking about hired muscle and water rights, and the way Jasper had looked at her in the yard. She did not want to trust him. Trust had cost her everything once before, but the alternative was facing this alone, and alone had its own price. Morning brought mud and rumors. The scarred man, whose name turned out to be Cade Merrick, had been seen at the Silver Ranch. Words had been exchanged. Threats made. The ranch owner, an old Scotsman named Douglas McCrae, distant relation she had claimed when she took the name, had told Merrick to get off his land or face a shotgun. Merrick had smiled and ridden away. By noon, someone had cut the fence along Bitter Creek and turned 24 cattle loose to wander. By evening, Douglas McCrae was in town, white-haired and shaking with rage, demanding to know who would sabotage him like a coward in the night. Jasper found Inez in the hotel dining room, serving stew to travelers who kept their heads down and their voices low. He waited until she brought a tray back to the kitchen, then followed her in. "We need to talk." She set the tray down with more force than necessary. "I am working. This cannot wait. Merrick and his men are pushing hard. They hit the Silver Ranch last night. Tonight, they will hit someone else. Maybe the livery. Maybe the general store. Maybe here." She turned to face him, wiping her hands on her apron. "Why here?" "Because you are visible. Because you are a woman alone. Because burning a hotel sends a message that no one is safe." Her mouth went dry. "You think they would burn it?" Jasper's face was grim. "I think they would do worse if it served their purpose. You need to come stay at the forge tonight. You will be safer there." She shook her head. "I cannot just abandon the hotel. If they come, I need to be here to stop them." He stepped closer, voice tight with frustration. "You cannot stop 3 armed men, Inez. You will get yourself killed trying." She lifted her chin. "Then I die protecting what is mine. Better than running again." The silence stretched sharp and brittle. Then Jasper said, very quietly, "I will stay here with you. We will take turns on watch. If they come, we face them together." She searched his face. "You would do that? Risk your life for a building that is not even yours?" He met her eyes. "I would do that for you." They kept watch in shifts. Inez took the first hours, sitting in the dark lobby with a shotgun across her knees and her ears straining for every sound. The rain had stopped, leaving the night thick and quiet. Jasper slept upstairs in the room next to hers. Door open so he would hear if she called. She did not call. Nothing moved except shadows and her own nerves. At midnight he came down and took the shotgun from her hands. "Go sleep. I have got this." She wanted to argue, but exhaustion weighed her limbs like iron. She climbed the stairs and lay down fully dressed, expecting to stare at the ceiling until dawn. Instead, she dropped into sleep so fast it felt like falling. She woke to the smell of smoke. For a heartbeat, she thought she was dreaming. Then, she heard Jasper shout her name, and the dream shattered into nightmare. She bolted from the bed, threw open the door, and choked on the smoke that rolled up the stairs. Flames licked the lobby wall, orange and hungry, spreading fast. Jasper stood at the base of the stairs, wet cloth wrapped around his face, gesturing wildly. "Get out. Now. Backstairs. Go." She did not argue. She ran down the hall to the back staircase, Jasper right behind her. The smoke was thicker here, clawing at her lungs. She stumbled on the last step, and he caught her, one arm around her waist, hauling her upright and out into the night. They burst through the back door into the yard and kept running until the heat no longer seared their skin. Then they turned and watched the hotel burn. Flames roared through the first floor, shattering windows, sending sparks into the black sky. Somewhere, someone was ringing the fire bell. People shouted, buckets rattled. But Inez knew it was too late. The building was old, dry as kindling. By morning, there would be nothing left but ash. She stood there, shawl wrapped tight around her shoulders, and watched her life burn. Jasper stood beside her, breathing hard. Soot smeared across his face. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "I should have seen them coming. She shook her head, unable to speak. Then, through the smoke and chaos, she saw him. Cade Merrick, standing across the street in the shadows, watching the fire with that same cold smile. Watching her. She took a step forward, rage flooding her chest, but Jasper caught her arm. Do not. That is what he wants. She pulled against his grip. He burned my hotel. He took everything I had. Let me go. Jasper turned her to face him, both hands on her shoulders, voice hard and urgent. He took a building. You are still alive. That is what matters. You stay alive, you can fight back. You go after him now, you are dead, and he wins. She sagged against the truth of it, the fight draining out of her. Jasper pulled her close, one arm around her shoulders, and she let herself lean into him for just a moment. Just long enough to remember she was not alone. By dawn, the hotel was a blackened skeleton. Inez sat on the steps of the general store, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, and stared at the ruins. People brought her coffee, kind words, offers of help. She nodded and thanked them, and felt nothing. Jasper crouched beside her, his own face streaked with soot and exhaustion. You can stay at the forge. I have got a room in back. It is not much, but it is dry, and it has got a lock on the door. She turned to look at him. Why are you doing this? He met her eyes. Because 4 years ago, I walked away when you needed me. I am not making that mistake again. She wanted to tell him it was too late. She wanted to push him away before he could hurt her again. But the truth was, she had nowhere else to go, and no one else to trust. So she nodded and let him help her to her feet. The forge was small, cramped, and smelled like iron and coal smoke. The back room held a narrow cot, a chair, a trunk, and little else. Jasper gave her the bed and took the floor without argument. That first night, she lay awake listening to him breathe and wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. But he did not try to touch her. He did not ask her questions. He just kept watch, quiet and steady. And somehow that was enough. The next day, the town gathered at the auction yard to raise money for rebuilding. Ranchers brought livestock. Merchants donated goods. Inez stood beside Jasper and helped organize the lots, calling out descriptions while he kept the records. It was hard work, hot and dusty, but it felt good to be useful. It felt good to be fighting back. A woman with graying hair and a face like weathered leather approached Inez during a break. You are the hotel keeper, right? Inez nodded. Was. The woman smiled. You will be again. This town does not quit easy. We take care of our own. Inez felt something tight in her chest loosen. Just a little. Thank you. The woman glanced at Jasper, who was arguing with a rancher about the value of a pair of mules. That one is a good man. Stubborn as a rock and twice as hard to move, but he has got a good heart. You could do worse. Inez felt her cheeks heat. We're not, he is just helping me out. The woman laughed. Sure he is. And I am the Queen of England. She walked away, still chuckling, and Inez turned back to the auction, trying to ignore the way her heart skipped when Jasper glanced over and smiled. That night, Douglas McCrae found them at the forge. The old Scotsman looked like he had aged 10 years in 3 days, his shoulders bowed, his eyes red-rimmed. Jasper offered him a chair and coffee. McCrae waved both away. I came to warn you. Merrick and his men, they are not done. They hit my ranch again last night, poisoned the well, killed 3 horses, left a note saying I have got 1 week to sell, or next time it will be the house with my family inside. Inez felt ice slide down her spine. What will you do? McCrae's jaw tightened. What can I do? I have got a wife and grandchildren. I cannot risk their lives over water and pride. I am selling. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Jasper stood slowly. If you sell, the rest will follow. Dust Fork dies. McCrae's voice cracked. Then Dust Fork dies. I am sorry. I truly am. But I will not sacrifice my family. He left without another word. Inez watched him go, then turned to Jasper. What do we do now? Jasper stared at the forge, at the coals glowing red in the dark. We fight. We find a way to stop them before McCrae's week is up. She crossed her arms. How? We have got no money, no leverage, no proof they are behind the sabotage. He looked at her, and his eyes were hard as flint. Then we get proof. We catch them in the act. You want to use yourself as bait, she said slowly. He shook his head. I want to use the thing they want most. Water access. There is a section of Bitter Creek that feeds all the ranches. If they control that, they control everything. They will hit it next. We set a trap, catch them there, and we have got our proof. She studied him. That is dangerous. If they catch us instead, we are dead. He met her gaze. I know, but it is the only play we have got left. She should have said no. She should have told him it was too risky, too desperate. Instead, she said, when do we go? They spent the next day preparing. Jasper gathered supplies, told trusted friends where they were going, and made sure someone knew to raise the alarm if they did not come back. Inez packed food and water, checked the shotgun, and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. That evening, they rode out toward Bitter Creek, 2 horses moving through the twilight like ghosts. The creek ran through a narrow canyon, rocks rising steep on both sides. There was one good spot to divert the water. A natural choke point, where a man with dynamite could collapse the canyon wall and change the creek's course forever. That was where Jasper thought Merrick would strike. They left the horses hidden in a draw and climbed up into the rocks, finding a vantage point that overlooked the choke point. Then they settled in to wait. The night stretched long and cold. Stars wheeled overhead. Inez sat with her back against stone, the shotgun across her knees, and listened to the creek murmur below. Jasper sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. For a long time, neither spoke. Then, quietly, he said, I need to tell you why. I left. She stiffened. You do not owe me that. Yes, I do. He paused, choosing his words. 4 years ago, I was working for a ranch outside Silver City. The owner, he was a hard man, mean. He had a son who was worse. That son took a liking to you, and when you turned him down, he did not take it well. He came after you. I stopped him. He did not get up. His voice was flat, emotionless, but Inez heard the weight beneath it. You killed him. I did. And his father swore he would see me hang, and anyone who stood with me dead beside me. I could not let that happen to you. So I ran. I thought if I disappeared, he would let it go. I thought you would be safe." Her throat tightened. "What happened?" He was quiet for a moment. "His father hired men to track me. Took me 2 years to shake them. By the time I did, I heard you were dead. House fire. No survivors. I believed it. I mourned you. Then I came to Dust Fork 6 months ago. And there you were, alive and whole, and calling yourself someone else. I did not know whether to thank God or curse him." She closed her eyes. "I started the fire. Not on purpose. I was trying to burn papers, things that tied me to that name, that place. It got out of control. I barely got out. I let people think I died because it was easier than explaining, easier than being found. So you took a new name, came here, and built a new life. Yes, and I found you anyway." She opened her eyes and looked at him. "Maybe that is not a coincidence. Maybe we are supposed to be here. Together. Fighting this." He turned his head, and in the starlight, his face was open, raw. "I want to believe that. But I do not want to cost you your life again." She reached out and took his hand, rough and warm in hers. "You did not cost me anything, Jasper. You saved me. You have always saved me, even when you were not there. Knowing you had cared enough to run kept me going. Do not carry that guilt anymore. It is too heavy, and it is not yours to carry alone." He looked down at their joined hands, then back at her face. "I am sorry I left. I am sorry I did not fight harder to find you." She squeezed his fingers. "I am sorry I let you think I was dead. We both did what we thought we had to. Maybe it is time to stop running and start choosing." Choosing what? Each other. The words settled between them, fragile and fierce. Jasper lifted her hand and pressed his lips to her knuckles. A brief, reverent touch. Then he said, "If we survive this, I am never letting you go again." She was about to answer when she heard it. Hoofbeats, faint, but growing closer. Jasper heard it too. He released her hand and moved to the edge of the outcrop, peering down. "3 riders," he whispered, "coming fast." She joined him, heart pounding. In the moonlight she could see them. 3 men on horseback, Merrick in the lead, riding straight for the choke point. One of them carried a canvas sack that could only hold one thing. Dynamite. Jasper's jaw set. "Stay here. Keep the shotgun ready. If this goes bad, you run. You do not look back, you just run." She grabbed his arm. "What are you going to do?" "Stop them." He pulled free and started down the rocks, moving fast and silent. Inez watched him go, every instinct screaming at her, to follow, to help, to not let him face this alone. But she stayed. She raised the shotgun and sighted down the barrel, her finger resting on the trigger, and she waited. Jasper reached the canyon floor just as Merrick dismounted. The other 2 men were already setting charges, working fast. Jasper stepped into the open, hands loose at his sides. "That is far enough, Merrick." Merrick spun, hand dropping to his gun. His smile was cold and sharp. "Work." "Should have known you would stick your nose where it does not belong." Jasper did not move. "You are done. We have got witnesses. We have got proof. You blow that canyon, you will hang." Merrick laughed. "Witnesses?" Where? I do not see anyone but you, Blacksmith. And you are about to have an accident. He drew his gun, fast and smooth. Jasper dove behind a boulder as the first shot cracked the night. The other two men drew and fired, bullets sparking off stone. Inez did not think. She stood, braced the shotgun and fired. The blast echoed through the canyon like thunder. One of Merrick's men went down, clutching his leg and screaming. Merrick spun toward the rocks, eyes wild. Who was up there? Jasper used the distraction. He lunged from cover, tackled Merrick, and they went down hard in the dirt. The gun skidded away. The third man turned his weapon toward Jasper, and Inez fired again. She missed, but the man flinched, and his shot went wide. Then Jasper was on his feet, fist connecting with Merrick's jaw in a sickening crunch. Merrick dropped and did not get up. The third man threw down his gun and raised his hands. Do not shoot. Do not shoot. I am done. Inez climbed down from the rocks, legs shaking, shotgun still raised. Jasper was breathing hard, knuckles bleeding, standing over Merrick's unconscious form. He looked up at her, and his expression was fierce and exhilarated and terrified all at once. I thought I told you to stay put. She lowered the shotgun. You are welcome. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then Jasper crossed the space between them in 3 strides and kissed her. It was not gentle. It was desperate and grateful and full of everything they had survived. She dropped the shotgun and kissed him back, hands fisting in his coat, anchoring herself to him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. Do not ever scare me like that again. She laughed, shaky and wild. Right back at you. They tied up Merrick and his men with rope from the saddlebags and waited for dawn. When the sun rose, they rode back to Dust Fork with 3 prisoners and a story that would put Western Expansion Holdings out of business in the territory. The town turned out to meet them, cheering and shouting. Douglas McCrae clapped Jasper on the back hard enough to rattle teeth. You did it, lad. You saved the ranch. You saved all of us. Jasper shook his head. It was not just me. Inez is the one who took the shot that turned the fight. McCrae looked at her with new respect. Then I owe you a debt, Miss McCrae. She smiled, tired and real. Just help me rebuild the hotel. That is payment enough. Deal. The next weeks blurred together in a rush of work and hope. The town rallied. Men donated timber. Women cooked meals for the crews. Jasper worked the forge from dawn to dusk, making nails and hinges and hardware. Inez worked beside the carpenters, hauling boards and learning how to frame walls. They fell into bed each night exhausted and woke each morning ready to do it again. Slowly, the hotel rose from the ashes. Slowly, Dust Fork found its footing. And slowly, Inez and Jasper built something new between them. Something stronger than secrets or fear. One evening, when the framing was up and the roof nearly complete, Jasper found her sitting on the front steps of the new hotel, watching the sunset paint the sky gold and red. He sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. How are you feeling? She leaned into him. Tired. Hopeful. Scared. He slipped an arm around her waist. Scared of what? She was quiet for a moment. Scared that this is too good, that something will come and take it away. Scared that I do not deserve this. This town, this life you. turned her to face him, his expression serious. You deserve every good thing this world has to offer, Inez. You have fought for it. You have earned it. And I am not going anywhere. Not unless you tell me to. She searched his eyes. What if my past comes back? What if someone finds out who I really was? Then we face it together. We tell the truth. We trust that the people here care more about who you are now than who you were before. And if they do not, we leave. Together. She felt tears prick her eyes. You would do that? Leave Dust Fork. Leave your forge. Just for me? He cupped her face in both hands, thumbs brushing her cheeks. I would burn the forge to the ground if it meant keeping you safe. But I do not think it will come to that. I think you are exactly where you are supposed to be. She kissed him, slow and sweet, and let herself believe it. The hotel opened 2 months after the fire, bigger and better than before. Inez stood in the new lobby, polished wood gleaming, windows sparkling, and felt pride swell in her chest. People came from miles around for the celebration. There was music, dancing, food, and laughter. Douglas McCrae made a speech about resilience and community. The mayor shook her hand and called her a hero. And Jasper stood at the back of the room, watching her with a smile that made her heart skip. That night, after the guests had gone and the lanterns burned low, she found him waiting outside. He offered his arm. Walk with me? She took it, and they walked through Dust Fork under a sky full of stars. The town was quiet, peaceful, home. Jasper stopped at the edge of town, where the road stretched out into the dark prairie. He turned to her, suddenly nervous in a way she had never seen. Inez, I have got something to ask you. She tilted her head, curious. What is it? He took both her hands in his. I know we have only been back in each other's lives a few months. I know we have got history that is complicated and painful. But I also know that I love you. I have loved you since the day I met you. And I will love you until the day I die. I do not want to waste any more time pretending otherwise. She felt her breath catch. Jasper. He smiled, shaky but sure. I am asking you to marry me. Not because you need protection, not because you owe me anything, but because I cannot imagine my life without you in it. Say yes, and we will build something together. A life, a home, a future. Say no, and I will respect it. But either way, I am staying. I am not running anymore. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but she was smiling. Yes. He blinked. Yes. Yes, Jasper. I will marry you. I love you. I think I always have. He let out a breath like he had been holding it for years, then pulled her into his arms and kissed her like the world was ending and beginning all at once. When they finally broke apart, both laughing and crying, he rested his forehead against hers. You are sure? You are not going to change your mind in the morning? She cupped his face, memorizing the feel of him. I have never been more sure of anything in my life. You and me, Jasper. No more running. No more hiding. Just us, and whatever comes next. He kissed her again, softer this time, full of promise. Just us. They married a month later in the small church at the edge of town. Inez wore a new dress, cream-colored with lace at the collar, and carried wildflowers picked that morning. Jasper wore his best suit, hair combed back, looking nervous and happy and more handsome than any man had a right to be. The church was packed. ranchers, shopkeepers, families, friends. People who had become her people, who had fought beside her and rebuilt with her and accepted her without question. Douglas McCrae walked her down the aisle, his eyes suspiciously bright. The preacher spoke about love and commitment and the courage it took to choose each other every day. And when Jasper slipped the ring onto her finger, a simple gold band he had forged himself, she felt something inside her unlock and open. This was real. This was hers. This was home. She said her vows clearly, without hesitation. I choose you, Jasper. Today and every day after, I choose this life, this town, this future. I choose us. He said, his voice rough with emotion. I choose you, Inez. I will protect you, stand beside you, and love you for the rest of my life. You are my home, and I am never leaving again. The preacher pronounced them husband and wife, and when Jasper kissed her, the church erupted in cheers. They walked out into the sunlight together, hand in hand, and the town threw rice and shouted congratulations. Someone started playing a fiddle. Someone else brought out a jug of whiskey. The celebration lasted all day and into the night, music and dancing spilling out into the street. Inez danced with Jasper until her feet ached, then danced some more. She danced with Douglas McCrae, with the mayor, with half the men in town, but she kept coming back to Jasper, to the way he looked at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. As the sun set and the stars came out, they slipped away from the party and walked back to the hotel. They climbed the stairs to the room Inez had claimed as theirs, the one with the big window that looked out over the town. Jasper closed the door behind them and leaned against it, just looking at her. What? She asked, suddenly shy. He shook his head, smiling. Just memorizing this. You. This moment. I want to remember it forever. She crossed the room and took his hands. We have got a lifetime of moments ahead of us. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. I know, and I am going to spend every single one of them making sure you know you are loved. She tilted her face up and kissed him, soft and lingering. I already know, but I will not stop you from trying. They stood there in the lamplight, holding each other, and the past fell away like dust. There was no more running, no more hiding, no more fear. Just two people who had found their way back to each other and chosen to stay. Outside, the town celebrated. Inside, Inez and Jasper built their future, one quiet promise at a time. The next morning, they woke tangled together in the narrow bed, sunlight streaming through the window. Inez stretched and smiled. Jasper propped himself up on one elbow and traced a finger along her cheek. Good morning, Mrs. Rourke. She laughed. I am going to have to get used to that. You will. He kissed her forehead. What do you want to do today? She thought about it. I want to walk through town. I want to see the hotel full of guests. I want to have breakfast at the cafe and listen to people gossip about us. I want to live this life we built. He grinned. That sounds perfect. So they did. They dressed and walked downstairs, and the hotel was alive with activity. Guests coming and going. The smell of coffee and bacon from the dining room. The sound of voices and laughter. Inez moved through it all with easy confidence, greeting people, checking details, making sure everything ran smooth. Jasper watched her from the doorway, pride written all over his face. Later, they walked to the cafe and sat by the window, eating eggs and potatoes, while half the town found excuses to stop by and congratulate them again. The baker brought them a slice of cake. The schoolteacher gave them a quilt she had made. The livery owner promised them a discount on horseboarding for life. It was overwhelming and wonderful, and exactly what Inez had never known she wanted. As they walked back to the hotel, Jasper said, "You know people are going to keep fussing over us for weeks, right?" She squeezed his hand. "Let them. I do not mind." He glanced at her, curious. "You have changed. When you first came to Dust Fork, you kept your head down, stayed quiet, avoided attention. Now look at you. You are the heart of this town." She thought about that. "Maybe I just needed a reason to stop hiding. You gave me that. A place to belong. People to trust. A future worth fighting for." He stopped walking and pulled her into his arms, right there in the middle of the street. "I love you, Inez Rourke." She smiled against his chest. "I love you too, Jasper." The weeks turned to months. The hotel thrived. The town prospered. Water flowed freely through Bitter Creek, and the ranches grew strong again. Western Expansion Holdings collapsed under the weight of criminal charges, and the vultures moved on to easier prey. Dust Fork became known as the town that fought back and won. And at the center of it all were Inez and Jasper, the hotel keeper and the blacksmith, who had faced down fire and fear and betrayal, and come out the other side stronger. They worked hard. They laughed often. They built a life that felt solid and real and impossibly good. Some nights, Inez still woke with her heart racing, afraid it was all a dream. But then Jasper would pull her close and whisper that he was there, that she was safe, that they were home. And she would believe him. One evening, nearly a year after they married, they sat on the porch of the hotel, watching the sun go down. The town was quiet, peaceful, bathed in golden light. Jasper reached over and took her hand. "What are you thinking about?" She smiled. "I am thinking about how far we have come. How much has changed. How grateful I am." He squeezed her fingers. "Me too." She turned to look at him. "Do you ever regret it? Staying here, marrying me, giving up the chance to move on and start fresh somewhere else?" He shook his head. "Not for a single second. This is where I am supposed to be. You are who I am supposed to be with. Everything else is just noise." She leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat there in comfortable silence, watching the day fade into night. The stars came out, one by one, filling the sky with light. And Inez thought about all the roads that had led her here, all the mistakes and losses and hard-won victories. She thought about the girl she had been, scared and alone, running from a past that wanted to swallow her whole. And she thought about the woman she was now, strong and settled and unafraid. The past would always be part of her story, but it did not define her anymore. She had chosen a new name, a new life, a new future. She had chosen love. She had chosen Jasper. And that choice had made all the difference. Years passed. The hotel became a landmark, known throughout the territory for its hospitality and warmth. Travelers came from far and wide, drawn by stories of the woman who had rebuilt after losing everything, and the blacksmith who had stood beside her. Inez trained staff, expanded the business, and became a voice people listened to in town meetings. Jasper's forge became famous for the quality of his work, and orders came from ranches and towns across 3 territories. They built a house behind the hotel, small and cozy, with a garden and a porch swing. They talked about children, about the future, about growing old together in this place they had fought so hard to claim. And through it all, they never forgot where they had started. The gunpoint misunderstanding that had brought the past crashing into the present. The fire that had taken everything and forced them to choose. The night in the canyon when they had risked their lives and found each other again. Those moments had forged them, tempered them, made them into something stronger than they could have been alone. And they were grateful. One night, sitting by the fire in their house, Jasper said, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I had not recognized you that day? If I had just let you be Inez McCrae and never said a word?" She thought about it. "I think we would have found each other anyway. Maybe not right away. Maybe not the same way. But I think we were always going to end up here. Some things are just meant to be." He smiled. "I like that." She leaned over and kissed him. "So do I." They sat together in the firelight, and the world outside was vast and wild and full of danger. But inside, they were safe. Inside, they were home. And that was all that mattered. Inez McCrae Rourke lived the rest of her life in Dust Fork, beloved and respected, never again hiding who she was or where she had come from. Jasper Rourke stayed beside her every step of the way, steady and strong, the man who had chosen her when the world said run. Together, they proved that the past did not have to be a prison, that second chances were real, that love, real love, was worth fighting for, and that sometimes the best way to find yourself was to stop running and stand your ground. The town of Dust Fork thrived because of them, and because of the people who believed that community mattered more than fear. The water flowed, the land bloomed, the future opened wide. And 2 people who had once been lost found their way home, not by chance, but by choice. That choice echoed through the years, a quiet testament to courage and hope, and the kind of love that does not give up. It was a story worth telling, a life worth living. And it started the day a blacksmith recognized a woman with a false name and a true heart, and decided that some things were worth risking everything for. In the end, that risk became the foundation of everything good that followed. Trust without shame. Love without fear. A life built not on running, but on staying. And that made all the difference.